Hello everybody, my name is Brian Nunez and I'm the Losi brand champion, and in today's video we're going to show you how to install your front and your rear sway bars onto your Losi Mini B. Now the sway bar is one of the kind of most critical things you can do to your buggy for a racing or more performance application. What it does is, as you come into a corner, let's say you're making a big left here, your car starts leaning. What the sway bar does is it also picks up the inside suspension and allows the car to still continue to lean but have a lower center of gravity. So instead of kind of doing this, you can still carry that same, if not more, momentum with the lower center of gravity, getting you through that corner onto your next obstacle even faster than without. So now that you understand kind of the features and benefits, let's go through the instructions on how to install it. We'll start with the front. So we'll set the car aside for a little while because we have some assembly to do here. Starting with these two, you're going to want to pop these balls into the bottom side, just like so. And then you're going to want to pop kind of the sway bar itself, the actual ball stud here, into the other side, like so. And we'll do the same for the other side. So now that those are there, we'll go ahead and grab one of these set screws and just start prepping that as well. Grabbing your 1.5 mil. Here is that. And you're gonna wanna just kind of get this threaded about halfway. Knock out the other side. And that concludes kind of the prep. So now that you have all your parts prepped there, it's gonna make your life a bit easier if we pop off these steering links. So grab your needle nose pliers, give it a 45-degree turn, and there it goes. Go for the other side, bam. Then you can kind of just use your hand on the steering servo and kind of move it all the way to one end. And then you should be able just to kind of pop that out itself by hand. Push those aside, same thing on the other side. I'll use my finger here to kind of push it all the way to the other end. Exposes the ball cup and the ball end, and I will pop that off. All right, now that we have those steering links out of the way, we'll flip the car around and we'll remove just the bottom screws of the shock. This is going to give you the room that you need in order to get the sway bar pivots in there. Here's one side. Save that. Move over to the other side. And then what I'll do is I'll actually move these shocks so that they're all the way up and out of the way. Like so. So now we have a lot of room to get these next parts installed. So I'll set this down like so, grab the part. And the key thing is just to kind of orientate yourself. I'll put the car the right way. You're gonna want this part facing forward. Your sway bar is gonna come in from the front into these pieces. So just kind of keep that in mind as you're installing these. We'll hold this upside down so you get a nice good view. And then I'll be able to install this piece just like that. Now that it's in there, I'll grab the supply screw and start screwing that in. And we'll repeat the process for the other side. Once you're done with that, go ahead and set the car right side up again. Now you can go ahead and install your sway bar. Now, it's probably best to start with one side. And if you can see that, I'm inserting to one side. And then I can move the other side, insert that side. I know it's probably not clear to see, sorry guys. And now to get a better view and continue the next step, we actually need to remove this front wing. You might not have this front wing if you haven't purchased it. It's a TLR tuned option part. So let me go ahead and remove that to show you guys what's next. So now with the wing removed, you can see that there's actually a groove. And this is the aluminum TLR tuned camber block, but it's also on the stock composite block that comes with the car. But this sway bar is meant to kind of lock into that groove itself. Let me get it in there, then I'll show you what it's like fully installed. There you go. So now you can see here, the sway bar is in that groove. Now what you want to do is go ahead and grab the supplied screws and start inserting, and the head of the screw is actually what keeps this sway bar in place. So now you can see that the head of the screw is what's keeping that sway bar in place. Now in order for a sway bar to function properly, these kind of mounts, or the mounts here in the center, should be completely free and not hinder the movement of the sway bar. The sway bar should be able to move side to side without an issue. As you can tell right now, I can move the sway bar side to side, but it does have a little bit of, oh, there it goes, kind of just broke loose there. Should be able to move it side to side. And again, those are already pre-installed there. And you're going to want to rotate and tighten those set screws to lock the sway bar in place. One key thing to do is you can actually push the sway bar and make sure that it kind of just lines up with the back here. So I'll rotate this. I'll show you a close-up here once I'm done. So as you can tell, the sway bar here is poking past the ball. You're going to want these to be flush. So I'm going to go ahead and loosen this up, and you can kind of move that so that it's nice and flush, like so. Repeat the process for the other side. So now as you can see, as I move this side up, it's moving the opposite side. So like I mentioned, as you're on the track, you hit the corner, now it's picking this side up, which is giving you a lower center of gravity, keeping overall your chassis leveler to the track surface, giving you less roll, less of that tipping, catching like you're gonna flip over, overall improving the handling and the cornering speed of your Mini B. So, sway bar's installed. Let's go ahead and reinstall the shocks and then the links. We'll drop these down, flip the car over, and drop in the shocks. Here we go. All right, so now one of the final steps is to reinstall your links here. And again, just kind of critical to note that this little groove should match the side of your camber link. So this goes here. You can also notice that these rod ends are actually different shapes. So this will go into the ball cup on the steering rack, and this goes on the actual spindle itself. So what I'll do is I'll actually push this all the way to its side using my finger. I'll turn this upside down, like so. Then what I'll do is you kind of just hold it in there with light pressure, something like that. Kind of balance act there. Grab your needle nose pliers and pop that in. Should hear a nice firm snap, like so. On these, I can support it with the bottom of my finger so I can pop it with not using the pliers. Like so. And then you're going to want to make sure that they're free to move, like so. You don't want to feel them locked up, because that means that the actual ball cups themselves are locking themselves in. So you're going to want to make sure that the ball cup is parallel to the surface of the ball stud. So the last step here is to install our TLR tuned front wing. If you're going to be on a really fast track with not big jumps, the front wing is a great TLR tuned option for your Mini B in order to get a lot more front downforce, better steering, especially at high speeds on those big banks, on those big sweepers. So be sure to check out Losi.com or other YouTube videos here on our YouTube channel to see the full lineup of our TLR tuned option parts for your Mini B or your Mini T. Now, let's move on to the rear. So for the rear, it's very similar to the front. You're going to get a 1mm sway bar and a 1.2mm sway bar for a more aggressive type of less roll, if you will. And we'll like to note that this is actually a separate part. We kept these separate because it's likely that you'll never have to replace this. But if you're going to be purchasing your rear sway bar kit, be sure to not forget your rear sway bar mount. So with that being said, we'll go ahead and put the car to the side for a while and prep all this. Grab the link, grab your ball, and you can kind of just use your link, set it right on top and pop it in. Same thing for the other side. And then you can go ahead and grab this kind of ball end here and do the same thing. It doesn't require much pressure, but should be a nice positive snap. Like so. Then we'll grab our 1.5, grab our set screw and start prepping it. Much easier to do this now than while it's installed in the car. You just want to get those started. You don't want to tighten them down on the way. You want to leave room for the sway bar later. So I'm going to put the car on its side. You can see that it needs to go within this little groove here. You can kind of just reach through the top side of the link and the dog bone there, and use your finger if you need to kind of help guide you in. But we're nearly there. Actually, I'm just going to use my 1.5mm to kind of help that down. There we go. So let me install this. You can see that now that's pretty good and lined up. We'll flip it back over, grab our screw, our 1.5mm. Go ahead and secure that link in. Now we'll move on to the other side. Okay, and grabbing this and making sure, just to be clear, that this needs to be facing the back of the car because the sway bar comes in from this side. So just take note of your orientation there. And depending on kind of your hand size and your patience, you could get this in there like so. Set that up upside down, grab your screw, 1.5mm. All right, so now you'll be able to grab your sway bar. Let's go a little heavier on the rear, put the 1.0 aside. It's the same thing. You're gonna see this groove here. Your sway bar should be into that groove and into your actual links there. So it's a little bit of a balancing act there, but I'll swing this one over. Get that in there. It's better for you to put these in first instead of try to get in there later and bend the sway bar on accident. So again, now I have it in on one side. I will see if I can guide the arm and guide it into the sway bar on the other side. There we go, success. Put that into my mount, and I'm actually going to install my mount first, but leave it quite loose, like so. By leaving that loose, it's going to let you kind of work the sway bar into there, then you can hold the mount shut with your finger. So now as you can see, our mount is nice and loose. We'll re-enter our sway bar into the links, and then into that mount. One sec here, let me see if I can get a good look. It's all a balancing act. Be much easier for you guys because you guys don't have to worry about the camera. So now I have the sway bar on both sides of the links. I'm going to try to hold on to these as I kind of work that sway bar into that mount like so. Now that it's in, I will actually use my finger, work that sway bar down, lock that in place. So now it should have nowhere to go, and tighten her down. All right, and same thing to the front. I'll re-mention it in case you skipped ahead to the rear, but when you tighten down the set screws, you're gonna wanna make sure, I'll show you here, that the sway bar is not poking out of the ball like so. It should be inside itself. So now in order for me to see here, I'm going to use my finger to rotate that set screw up, insert my screw, and lock that in. Kind of finesse that in there. Make sure that sway bar is not interfering with anything. There you go. Now just to check, you're gonna wanna make sure your sway bar can again still move side to side freely, but is hard mounted to there. So with that being said, now your rear sway bar has been installed. If you're interested in any of the other option parts we offer for the Mini T or the Mini B, be sure to jump on Losi.com and then our Losi YouTube channel for the instructions on how to install them. Thanks guys, we'll see you in the next one.